Well, there were boos around the stadium, toxicity in the air. It's been a difficult few days for Thomas Frank. This was just the tonic, though. A huge victory against Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League. Let's hear from the Spurs boss now. He's speaking to Becky.
Well, Thomas, congratulations. Back to winning ways in a competition that has served you well. I imagine you are a happy, if somewhat relieved man. How do you feel?
Of course, very happy that we won the game. For various reasons. Main bit, I think it was a good performance, especially first half. I really liked how we started the game, front-footed, aggressive, forward, positive. So I think that was very good. Scored 2 good goals. Lots of positive from that. Clean sheet as well. I would have loved us, of course, to keep the ball a bit better second half, but of course we haven't won as much as we wanted to, and especially at home. So that was important to get that over the line. And you often see that with 11 against 10 that can happen. I think especially first half you felt there could be a special European night. I think the fans were absolutely great, and they were really behind the team. So very happy with that.
Yeah, you asked them and they answered your call. They felt from the off that they were really behind you tonight.
Yeah, I think they were really behind the team. Really.
Tonight.
I think first and foremost, I think there was many good bits, and I liked his mentality to push through an injury, playing with pain, and I liked his determination and focus. And I think he had some decisive actions.
Continue to build from this now? Do you feel this could potentially be a turning point in terms of results elsewhere?
Yeah, I actually, as I said, I think this is the 8th game in a row where we've done a lot of things right, and now we turned it also with a result, and that we need to build on with a performance and result on Saturday.
And just finally, perhaps the only negative, Lucas Bergvall going off again. What's that look like?
There was a contact, so they are assessing him now, so we will know more on Thursday.
All right, wait and see. Thomas, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Interesting to hear Thomas Frank say that right at the end. It's their 8th game in the row where they've done a lot of things right. They've only had 2 wins in those 8 games. Is it still a work in progress? You mentioned all the players that are missing, or did they need to give a lot more, which is what we saw out tonight?
Yeah, I think they needed to give a lot more. They needed to kind of show that work rate, that intensity, show the crowd that they're, like I said, that they're willing to work for the shirt and the fans and show their commitment. But yeah, they've got a lot of injuries, but I think, again, it's a tough one. The manager hasn't been here for that long. Has he had enough time to maybe bring some signings in, implement his style? It does take time. Again, been injuries. So there's all these questions. Obviously, fans will have their opinion and will probably form it very quickly. But yeah, it's tough. Obviously, the chairman has obviously left, and I think probably he was the one who hired, and then you've got a new kind of regime, and now is he their manager? So there's all these things are kind of up in the air and at the moment, but I guess time will tell, and but hopefully, yeah, for me personally, I want to see Tottenham do well and be winning games, and hopefully that happens sooner rather than later without anyone losing a job.
Yeah, if it's an upward trajectory, then that's a positive. And he asked for a response, didn't he, from these fans? He said, they needed the fans to respond, and whether it was to him directly or to the performance of the team, it can only be a unifying factor, can't it?
Well, it must have come from him because they played completely different. He must have said to them, guys, you got to be aggressive, you got to be positive. We got to put pressure on Borussia Dortmund. We got to play forward, and they did that. The crowd bought into it. Thought the players did. He must have given them a good team talk. But if you look at those last 9 results, you can't say, we've done everything right when you're not winning games, and they're not even playing some of the biggest teams that they've only won 2 of those games. And so, look, there's a big test coming up. They've got some really tough fixtures, which you can see on the screen there, and they'll be up against it. I think they're better when they don't have as much of the ball at the moment, and in a lot of those games they probably won't have as much of it, so that actually might suit them. But the first thing, they actually need to play a bit like his Brentford side, where they're really aggressive and they get after people, put pressure on teams. Obviously, I don't think they can dominate the ball. I don't think they have the personnel to do that. We saw in the second half, even though they had one more player. But I thought today, considering the circumstances, they were under huge pressure. It's one of the hardest things, Gareth will know, when you're struggling as a team, or his teams didn't do that very often, to be fair.
Well, they had him, didn't they?
Yeah, but I would say I thought they showed real courage to come out here and play and be positive and get a result under real pressure.
It's a huge week ahead, though, because they've got to get a result at Burnley, otherwise the fans probably will turn again. And then they're out at Frankfurt next week. Owen, you and I are, and This is a Frankfurt side who was a shadow of the team that they were last season. They look like they might actually go out of this competition, so they definitely need the victory. And for Tottenham, they faced each other last season in the Europa League in the quarterfinals, so you would be positive if you were a Spurs fan, because there might even be a new manager in charge as well.
Yeah, I know. They need a result against Burnley, don't they, Gareth?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think maybe Burnley's the right team to be going to playing against. I know it's no easy game in the Premier League, but you would rather be playing a Burnley than a Man City or a top team. So they have chances to turn that around very quickly and hopefully build some more momentum.
Yeah. Okay.
You're watching Back Pages tonight. Welcome back to you at home. Welcome back to The Athletic's David Ornstein and to Martin Hardy from The Times. OK, guys, let's keep up the pace. Let's talk Mo Salah. It's been a while since he's been in the headlines. I'm sure you remember that 3-3 draw at Leeds and then his comments in the mix. And it seems an absolute age ago. And in the Mirror, Paul Gorst's piece, great for Mo to slot back in, insisting life with Mo Salah back at Liverpool is normal as it's always been. Do you think that things have thawed and that it will return to business as usual before his outbursts after the game at Ellen Road? David, come to you first on this.
We don't know, David, because we're not inside and truthfully only Liverpool will know the exact dynamics. It must have been pretty bad to get to the point that Mo Salah kicked off after that Leeds game. However, they did seem to smooth it over quite well with the absence against Inter Milan. Then he was reintegrated for that final game before he went, which he suggested was a farewell, but clearly not. In Liverpool's mind, he was staying, and that looks like it will be the case as the transfer window comes to a close, and at least until the end of the season. He'll then have 12 months left on his contract, and there's a decision for all parties to make. If it's going well, maybe they can continue. If it's not going well, then perhaps they look to have a conversation and go their separate ways. But looking at the pictures in the papers from training today, he's got a smile on his face. He's going to be back involved. Liverpool have missed his finishing. If he can refine his form, which he did in the Africa Cup of Nations, then it will be a huge asset to Liverpool for the 4 months ahead. So certainly they're all the right soundings are coming from Anfield, but it will be on the pitch where we'll see if he's truly back to the Mo Salah we've come to know and expect.
Let's have a look at the eye and to talk Newcastle, who take on PSV at home in the Champions League tomorrow night. And then their final game in this league phase is away to the holders, Paris Saint-Germain. And Eddie Howe, just with this rallying call, Martin, make some history. Does it feel like this is a really critical game for the Newcastle boss?
Yeah, look, there's been an upturn in form in the last, say, a month or 6 weeks. Newcastle as a city will still hit a meltdown if there is a failure to score in a game or a failure to win in a game, which kind of followed Wolves. But Newcastle's home form has been excellent. Their Champions League form is good. A win tomorrow night against the PSV team that are flying in Holland, which we should really take note of. But a win takes Newcastle through to the that knockout phase in the Champions League, which would give them the possibility to go through to the knockout stage of the Champions League for the first time in their history. So this is a big moment. But as I said, Newcastle under the magic of St James's Park, Eddie Howe has played into that for the 4 years he's been in charge. Got that energy inside the stadium, especially in these Champions League games are still very, very special because they're still very new to the club under his regime and under the new ownership. Expect a great atmosphere tomorrow night. He spoke today about the possibility of Dan Burn not being far away from a return, Willis Sula possibly returning. So the squad feels a little bit stronger as well. And yeah, it's a game you think Newcastle can go and win this and get themselves into a great position in the Champions League. Still a season that Eddie Howe says, I'm a glass half full man. There is a very difficult, but it's still a semi-final at Manchester City to come. They're pushing to qualify for the Champions League and the Premier League, and they're through in the FA Cup.